from Handmade Not Hallmark, back with the Possum Stamps YouTube channel. Today I've got this really fun rainbow card featuring the Prickly Friends stamp set and some really cool techniques on getting everything lined up. Let's get into it. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be using the Prickly Friends stamp set. This is one of my favorite from Possum Stamps. I just love the little cactus. They're so fun to work with. And the first thing I'm going to do is kind of get my grid lined out. I did like a practice sheet off to the side to make sure I got my spacing right, and I'm just kind of splitting each of the sections in half almost so I get my my placement correct. So I'm just taking a regular A2 size panel of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I apologize that my head got in the way here. Just want to make sure I got everything lined up, and I split it in half horizontally and vertically, and then I split that in half again. So I've got 6 spaces ready to go with a nice space right in the middle. Now this is just my template piece. I am going to color on this piece, and I'm going to die cut from this piece because I'm planning on using it as a kind of guide to help me line up my cacti images perfectly on my finished panel. I'm just using some Copic friendly cardstock and some nice Copic friendly black ink to stamp down all of my little cactus images. You could do the same technique with any other kinds of images that you might have, some smaller ones. You could even get away with maybe doing some larger ones, maybe just doing 4. But this technique of kind of mapping everything out ahead of time and using your coloring sheet after you die cut as a way to kind of line everything up on your finished panel. Just lining up each of the cactuses that I wanted to use. The Misty is a really helpful tool with this as well. Helps you, keep things lined up, and you can get really nice crisp images. Once I had all of my images all lined up, I went through and I erased all of the pencil lines, and I heat set my ink just to make sure that it was nice and dry before I started my Copic coloring. And all of the colors I'm using today will be listed along the screen. Gonna put on some music, and once we're all done coloring, we'll come back and finish up together. coloring was finished, I used my coordinating dies to cut all of those images out. Next, I want to get my finished panel ready to go. Here I've got a piece of craft cardstock and some vintage photo distress ink, and I'm just kind of distressing this background panel. I kind of wanted it to look a little bit like it might be a sandy, ground or something like that. It's all perspective and how you visualize things, but that's kind of what I was going for. I wanted it to kind of look like it was like a little bit of sand for these cacti to kind of rest in. Again, I'm just using some vintage photo distress ink. I just distressed around the edges, and then I'm going to take some water and a paintbrush, and I'm going to splatter some speckles all around this as well, just to kind of enhance the idea that it could be sand. You could leave this part out, you could add more, you could add less. It's all however you would like to do it. I really think this kind of helps ground the images and gives them a nice place to sit. I went in and just added a little bit more distressing just to make it a little bit more interesting. Once that panel was nice and dry, I adhered it to a top folding A2 size card base from white cardstock, and I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to attach this to my background panel. Any adhesive is fine, I just prefer liquid adhesive. And once I had that adhered, I went ahead and added some details to my cacti. I just went in with some white gel pen and added a little bit of highlight detail, kind of accented their little spines a little bit, again just to kind of liven them up and give them a little bit more interest. You could again leave this step out if you wanted to get the card produced a little bit quicker, but I really think this adds some interest and detail. One of my favorite things to do in any kind of card is to add that white gel pen detail. Go through and add in all the little spines and add some highlight to the pots as well. I really think it kind of makes them look a little more realistic. You could add the smiling faces to either the pots or to the cacti that come in this set, which I think would be a really cool addition. You can see here that I used the panel that I cut them out, or colored and cut them out with, to use as a guide. And I just kind of cut little slits around the die cut areas so that I could easily move this sheet out from underneath my images once I had them adhered. I'm going to be using some 3M foam squares to attach my cacti just to give them a little bit of dimension and make the card again a little more interesting. Now that I know that where each pot goes, I can easily line it up with a die cut shadow, and then with that slit in the paper I can easily remove the paper as well. I'm going to speed through this process just a little bit here and kind of walk you through the thought process. I really wanted to have these colorful cacti in a rainbow order, but I'm not very good at lining things up, so I felt like kind of giving myself a guide or making a guide would be really helpful. And I'm really glad that I did this. It worked out perfectly, and I will probably use this style or this technique again to help me line up my images. As you can see here, as I'm putting them on, I can easily peel away that extra cardstock so that I can not have it attached to my panel. I really like how this turned out, and I love how they look nice in a line, and the rainbow pots are wonderful. Once that was all finished, I grabbed a greeting from my stash and he embossed it with some white embossing powder onto some black cardstock, and I'm going to pop this up with some 3M foam tape right in the middle of all of my cacti. You could use any greeting that you want. You could use a die cut greeting. You could use a stamped greeting like I'm using here. Anything to go in that empty space would work out wonderful. After I have that greeting adhered down, I'm going to add a little bit of shimmer and shine with an aqua shimmer pen. This is another one of my favorite ways to add some interest to any card. Going to get that greeting adhered right in the middle of all of those cacti, and this is kind of a standalone card. It could be used for any occasion or just to let somebody know that you're thinking of them. I'm going to add that shimmer to the flowers on the top of the cacti as well as the greeting. If you like this video, please hit the like button as well as the subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos here at the Possum Stamps YouTube channel. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you again real soon. Bye!